Hey Ringside crew, welcome to the internationally known Dudes at Ringside podcast. And now here's your host, Joe Panther III.
It's showtime, Ringside crew, and welcome for the close of Spooky Wrestling Month on the internationally known Dudes at Ringside podcast. I'm Joe Panther III, and today, to help me close out Spooky Wrestling Month, I have a gentleman that will knock your socks off, make you do the dance during Beetlejuice. If you've seen it already, please see it. Good movie. This gentleman will make you freaked out. And by the way, before anything, I want to thank you, Gemma, for helping me get this awesome gentleman. Let's give a warm, spooky Dudes at Ringside welcome to Bloodsaw. Welcome, Bloodsaw. Welcome.
What's going on, everybody? How we doing out there?
Welcome. So, Bloodsaw, if my internationally known audience is not familiar with you, and why would they not be, introduce yourself.
Sure. So I've been wrestling now, about to close out year number 13. Trained in Connecticut. I have traveled a ton. Wrestled out in Canada, wrestled all over the United States, been as far west as Hawaii. Subtiles, Quebec is the furthest north. I've been all over the South. Doing it for a long time. Most recently, been training at PAPW. It's a school in Connecticut owned by Paul Roma, Mario Mancini. I assume you know them.
Yes.
I'm doing a lot of work with them, and then I also work with Matt Classic and the AIWF. I was recently the international champion for them. I had 46 title defenses with it before I finally got taken down in Canada. But yeah, it was a good 6-7 month run. That's what I've been doing this year. And yeah, man, I've just been on a roll doing different things, traveling, touring, getting ready to head over to Europe next year and have some fun.
So Bloodsaw, like,
Mm.
where did you get all those awesome chains, and where did you get that vest and that hat, man? Because it's all awesome, right?
Well, it's one of those things, right? How does everything start? Well, everything starts from pretty much nothing. Um, when the idea Bloodsaw uh, came to be, it was like, well, everybody kind of appreciates the idea that the monotony of life can really get to you. You know what I mean? You wake up every day, you go and do what you have to do, you go home, you go to bed, you wake up, do what you have to do. And a lot of people in the world, they can really understand the idea that sometimes wouldn't it be fun to just tell your boss where to go? Wouldn't it be
Oh yeah,
fun for that one person that cuts you off in traffic to just do it? A lot of people, they're not willing to do those kinds of things, and that's okay. Totally okay. But I was watching some Ultimate Warrior a few years ago, and he had a thing where he said, "Sometimes you forget who you are. Go out at night and walk all night until you find yourself." And so I did that, and then I said, I probably should paint this on so I don't forget who I am. And that's where the face paint comes from. It's a reminder to me to be true to me and to be true to what I want to do, and not to be afraid to do what I want to do because sometimes that's what you have to do. The top hat here, when I found this top hat, that was 12, 13 years ago. It's probably the first thing I added to Bloodsaw. But uh, who I am is Bloodsaw. Every time I come out there and I'm performing for you, you're there to see wrestling. And when you think wrestling, you're going to think Bloodsaw. And that's what I do. So when I come out, the top hat comes with me and I welcome you to the show every single time because the show is going to be me. And that's what I'm bringing for you. And if you don't believe me, watch some clips. It's going to be great. The
yes,
the chains right here, these are actually a memorial to, you probably know who Hercules Hernandez is.
yes.
So Hercules Hernandez, Paul Roma's tag partner. We have PAPW hosts a tournament, the Hercules Hernandez tournament. It actually is just wrapping up. But I won that tournament. When I won the tournament, I had Paul ask the family. And so I wear these chains to remember him and to remember everything that he did for pro wrestling because I believe very much in the idea that the history of wrestling and where wrestling came from and where wrestling is going to is something that you have to pay attention to. You have to believe in it and you have to keep it with you. Not enough guys are willing to remember wrestling and remember that there was somebody who did things so you could do what you're doing today. So I wear these chains as a memory to him. But man, they're a lot of fun to wear, aren't they?
Yes.
So it's cool.
Awesome. So, like, I'm from Pennsylvania. There's quite a
Sure.
few awesome places here. I don't know if you're familiar with PPW in
Yeah.
Slatington, PA.
Yeah. Paul Bow.
Yeah, I love Paul Ball. Paul Ball is a good guy. You should definitely come out here. I would love to see you perform live. That would be like the coolest thing
So,
ever.
so back in the day, I actually had a wrestling school where I taught in Pennsylvania.
Mm.
It's now defunct. The guy who was my money backer didn't quite do everything the right way by the books, and those things go by the wayside. But I actually trained a bunch of guys out in Williamsport, Pennsylvania. This is probably now 7, 8, 9, 10 years ago, something like that. So let's see if you some of the guys who are now working out in Pennsylvania. If you ever seen Joe Perfect?
No, never heard of Joe Perfect.
Well, so he's out in Williamsport area, but he was one of my first students out there. Um, I worked with, let's see, out there. I had Suicide Myers. Ace Austin came through there for a little while with me. He was hanging out. He and I used to travel and tour and do a bunch of shows together back before when he was fresh out of the Samoan school. He and I worked together. It was cool. We toured a lot of the West area with Shane Douglas. We had he came in for a while. He was a really cool guy. I liked working with him a lot too. Um, but yeah, I feel like Paul. I know Paul Bow from working out there before he started PPW, or when he was first getting into it. But I haven't been out way west in a couple of years now. You know what I mean? I was
Yeah.
a little bit more of a local boy for a little while there, but now we're back on the road. We're touring. We're having fun, so it's good. Maybe I will come out. You know?
It's a nice area that like Paul Ball does a lot of good shows on Fight TV now and stuff like that. And also there's Alpha Junior's promotion, Battle Pro Wrestling. That's
Hmm.
another good one. I haven't got a chance to go to any of their shows, but they do a lot of shows on Sundays in August, like the first of the month and stuff like that.
Yeah. Well, isn't I'm trying to think of who else is out there. Is because I know Shane Malice works a lot out there as well. The Steel City Sex Pistol. I don't know if you've seen him before, but he does a bunch of stuff out there too. I think he works for maybe WDWA. I think that's in West Virginia though.
Mm.
But a bunch of those companies, man, there are a lot of really good dudes out there. I like a lot of, I'm in New England, and this is actually something that comes up sometimes for me. But a lot of people they feel like New England is like this mecca of wrestling lately
Oh
because
yeah, it's a lot of
we have a
people.
lot of hot talent coming out of New England, right? And I totally agree. The talent is great, and I love it. And I don't, you know, I love it because people work hard and they get where they got to get. But I always tell people, just because you can do some cool matches in New England, head out west, head out south, head up north, go over to Europe, see what you can do over there. Because, you know, wrestling is such this like beautiful landscape of differences. And so when you head out west or you head down south, I mean, have you gotten a chance to like travel down south at all and see any of the shows in like the Tennessee, Memphis area?
You know what's sad? I went on a trip to North Carolina, and I
Mhm.
jokingly told my mom, "Well, if you have some free time, if I find some posters, I go." She's like, "You're not going to a wrestling show on family vacation." I'm like,
Dude, I'll tell you this, man. So AIWF, who I work with, I just had their child, like I said. So Matt Classic is head of the AIWF. Are you familiar with Matt Classic? Have you ever talked to him before?
Matt Classic. The name sounds familiar. I'm not too sure if I had him on the
Well, if
podcast.
you haven't, well, no, if you haven't talked to him before, I'll link you up with him because Matt Classic is one of those guys who knows a lot of guys. But so that the AIWF, it's 150 wrestling companies in, I think at this point it's 44 countries all over the
Mm.
world that come together. So it's kind of like it started in the early 90s. It's like a modern take on the classic NWA build. So I've been really fortunate because I've been going all over the country wrestling in these AIWF affiliates. So I've been seeing wrestling in I was in where was I? Altamont, Tennessee. I was in Greensboro, North Carolina. I've been to West Virginia. I was in Massachusetts, Maine, Canada, and two different provinces, whatever the name is for those. I'm going down to Florida. Like I've been all over these different places, seeing all these kinds of wrestling, and it's cool because everywhere you go, it's still wrestling, but the things you get to see where you're like you've forgotten how great something can be when it's presented in a different way. You know what I mean? It's kinda like eating a different flavor of pie. Mm,
Mm.
and there's some great pie all over the world, you know what I mean? It's a good time.
Yeah. Yeah. When I think Bloodsaw, when I think of your whole character, I think of like something you would see like in those old horror movies, the ones the ones I'm talking about, that
Yeah, yeah.
you go to the video store and you don't see them in the movies that are so They're so you think they're gonna be bad because they're straight in the DVD store, but when
Yeah.
you bring them home, you're like, ooh.
Yeah, I mean, I have a little bit of B horror flick to me. I get that.
So what
Um,
I could see, I could see a little of what's that movie? It was in the theater that everybody they're supposed to do a sequel for it. I can't think of it. It was like a movie. Oh my gosh. And he looks like a scarecrow, but he's like an alien. I can't think of that movie. Oh my gosh.
are you talking about Jeepers Creepers?
Yeah, you have that look with the makeup, with the with the thing. Like, I
Well,
think it's
he was like all sewed together with body parts and pieces.
yeah, the
Um,
makeup. It made me
yeah, yeah,
think of
yeah. No, I mean, truthfully, a lot of the makeup inspiration for me comes from this. It's I don't really know where it all necessarily started, but like the first time I ever painted my face, I was at a show in Pennsylvania. Actually, I was at where what was it called before it was KPW? It was oh, man, where was it? I can't remember the name of the place. I was in Lancaster, Pennsylvania at a wrestling show, and it was like my debut match. And I wasn't planning to paint my face, but when I was growing up, I didn't watch a lot of wrestling, but I was a huge fan of the Ultimate Warrior. I really liked his deal, so I was always kind of open to it. And the band that was at the show, they were doing live entrance music for a couple of the wrestlers, and I was like, dude, I'm down. Let's figure it out. And then they were like, well, hey man, we're gonna all paint our faces. And they actually did the Crow look because it was when they were all really into like the Sting idea. So
yeah.
the original paint was just white, and I was like, I want to. If you're gonna go to war, you're gonna have blood all over your hands or something like that. So I ended up taking like a hand and I just wiped it across my face with red, and it was the blood, right? So now the blood saw the red eyes. It's crying tears of blood, and that's what it is. It's running down your head, and when you get hit in the head too many times, it just starts trailing down your face, and
Mm.
that's kind of where I go with it. But the B horror flick concept, it's funny because a lot of my inspiration really comes from like old school Alice Cooper. I come out to Alice Cooper in the ring, so like I've seen him in concert a whole bunch of times, and I love like his look and his aesthetic and his like because he's a creepy looking dude, and like he'll cut somebody's head off on stage and he'll dance with the limp body, and you're like, man, this dude's cool. And that's for me a lot of where I go with it is like, yeah, man, I I'm gonna paint my face, I'm gonna wear some chains, I'm gonna come out, and I'm gonna beat somebody up, and you're gonna be real happy to watch it. You know what I
Yeah,
mean? Like
yeah.
that's where I want to be with it. It's like for me the idea that a lot of those B horror flicks and the cult followings and how people will watch what they're doing and they're like, oh man, I don't want to like this guy, but at the same time, something about it is just not wrong. uh, and I think that's for me somewhere I draw my inspiration. So
Yeah,
it's cool.
definitely. So if you had to do a top 5 Alice Cooper songs, which would be your
Ooh.
top 5 all-time favorite Alice Cooper songs?
Oh man, that is a really intense challenge.
Bum.
Um, Well, no, yeah, because for me, man, so I've seen him in concert so many times. There's a bunch of his music where at different times in your life, different things will resonate with you. Um, I'm 18 is really good. The first CD I ever bought with my own money out of my own pocket was "Welcome to My Nightmare."
I love
So
that song.
that whole album, man, start to finish, is like you can just start it and let it go. Steven is so good because Steven really represents this idea of like, you know, I hear somebody calling my name, but no, that can't be me. And that's sometimes like I've used that song before, um, because there's a transition that happens inside of yourself when you're putting the face paint on. Happens inside of me at least. I'll say it that way. Who I am without the face paint on, who I am with the face paint on is an entirely different person. And so there's these moments where you feel yourself becoming who you are. You paint your face on so you remember who you are. And so when I paint the face onto me, sometimes I've listened to that song and I've kind of put myself in that zone. So Steven is great. Welcome to My Nightmare. It's actually my new T-shirt that'll be coming out, or it's out now. So you got to kind of look for that. But if you've ever seen the album cover, got a sweet little thing up there for you, so you can check that out. But yeah. So if I was gonna do my top 5, all right, I'm gonna just say 5 songs. I'm not gonna put them in order. Okay. Go to Hell, Feed My Frankenstein, Welcome to My Nightmare, Steven. Oh, it's already 4. What's my number 5 going to be? Black Widow.
Okay, cool.
We'll go with that. And listen, that could change any time. So don't write that down. Don't put that in some sort of database and say that's forever. Okay.
Jenna's gonna come after you now, going, "You picked the wrong songs. I listen to these songs now too." Like,
Listen, it's all good. Yeah, man, that's one of those things where like you never really for me, I love music, man. I've sang my whole life. That's how I actually got into pro wrestling. I was a performer first. I used to do like theater. So sing, dance, tap dance, play the saxophone, all that kinds of stuff. But I really wanted to hit people. So I figured out a way to make those two come together. And that's kind of where I
yeah,
became who I am now. But for me, music is so you really can't lock it down. It should always be fluid and going with who you are and progressive because as your day to day changes, what you need to make the most of that day should change as well. So you can't ever be like, oh, this is who I am. That's it. Come on, man. Be a little more adventurous in life. There's so much to it.
yeah, totally. Like it's crazy to think like the wrestling world and the real world are in two separate things for me. Like by day, I'm at a senior home doing pots and pans, and at night, I'm sitting there helping you guys, being a little
Yeah.
satellite dish, help you guys get your names known all over the world.
No,
So
it's
it's
cool,
like
man. I appreciate it.
everybody jokes says, Joe, you live the Superman life sometimes. You take off the red glasses, you put on a pair of scrubs to make people smile, and then you go home and go, "Hey, I'm Joe
Yeah,
Panther
man.
III on the internet."
That's how it is, man. It's how it is. The wrestling industry itself, it's got its origins in carnivals, right? It's a carny game. Everyone who wrestles and is involved in wrestling is some level of carny, and it's just a matter of who you are and what you do with it, right? It's like what your specific face paint version is. I mean, putting on those glasses that makes you who you are. Some people who've never quote unquote put their glasses on will never really understand how it feels to live everything. You know what
Yep,
I mean? They miss out on these chances to just go do something weird. Try
yep,
something weird. Be weird. It's okay. It's
yep.
fun. It's exciting.
Yeah. Everybody
You know?
thinks that I chose to wear these red glasses. They found me because
Yeah.
my day program during COVID, they had this whole Valentine's Day stuff, and I got them, and I was like, "What do I need these for?" And I left them on my desk. And then one day, when my former co-host said, "We both need to get a gimmick," and I found them, put them on, and he was like, "I don't know." Pop the lenses up, put them on, and I was like, "I'm gonna leave these on. These are my new thing."
No. The top hat, I joke that like I found it myself, but I was helping a friend of mine move. He was living in this house and he was moving. And I went to his house and I picked up a piano. This is a true story. I picked up the piano as I'm walking away, and there was this top hat on the ground behind the piano. And I said, "Whose top hat is that?" He goes, "I have no idea. Never seen that before in my life." Now, what do you mean you never seen it before? He goes, "I have no idea when it got here. I don't remember anybody wearing it to my house. I've never seen that before." So I picked up the top hat and I was like just joking. I was like, "Oh, maybe I should wear this." And I put it on and it fit. And it was one of those things where it was like, where'd this come from? This is weird. But then I went to a show, our next wrestling show, and I brought the top hat and I put the top hat on. And I didn't have anything else. There was nothing else. It was just the face paint and the top hat. And that was what I had. And I was like, I don't even know why I'm doing this right now. But I did it and I came out to the ring and I took it off and I smacked the ground and it was this moment for me where I was like, man, I didn't even know I needed this. But here I am. And I found it and it works and it fits. And it's like this is actually the same top hat for the last 12 years. I
Wow.
had somebody offer me a new top hat because they're like, "Hey man, your top hat, like you might not be able to see it on camera, but it's all beat up and like it's got these dents and these ridges to it." And somebody was like, "Hey, you should probably get a new top hat because that one's all beat up." And I said, "What are you talking about, man? I just got it the way I like it." It's like
Yeah.
I wore this top hat. I had a cage match with Suicide Myers in Williamsport, PA, with Shane Douglas as my special enforcer, so he was there as my backup. And like this top hat got crunched underneath. I was on the top rope. This dude was in the middle on a table. Myers was on a table, and he got me by the neck off the top rope. And when he went to choke slam me, my top hat came off, went under the table. So this thing was completely crushed flat. And I like
Oh,
hit
jeez.
hit the inside of it and popped it back out. But that's what it is, man. It's like it's been with me for this whole ride. It's been on all these tours. It's been on all these trips, and so it's like can't drop the hat now. I can't just get a fresh one. This thing is it's done the work. It's done
It's
just as
part
much
of
work as I
the I
have.
would just say it's part of the way you are.
Yeah.
So like the person that helped me get to you, like, do you think you would ever reform with Gemma?
Gemma?
Or do you think you and Gemma are ever
No,
gonna
so
reform as a
so
team?
so Gemma, she was my manager at PAPW. She was there. I was wrestling Lucas Chase. I don't know if you heard of Lucas Chase before. Great worker. He trained a couple different places, but he had recently been down at Gold Dust School down in Texas. He was working out with him. I was Dustin Rhodes. That's his real name. I was called him Gold Dust. That's how I know him. But he was working out down there. We were doing this feud, and so Gemma was pretty fresh to the business. She's still young. She's a great kid. She listens really well. She works really hard. But she was coming out with me, and every night I was like, okay. And she would always say to me, "What are we gonna do out there?" And I'd go, "I don't know." And she'd go, "What do you mean you don't know?" And I'd be like, "Don't worry about it. It'll be fine. You'll figure it out. It'll be fine." So there's one match we had, Lucas and I. It was a bull rope match, and he had called Gold Dust, and he was like, "Hey man, I got a bull rope match. What are the do's and the don'ts?" And he's like, "Well, Gold Dust said to me, you ruin this match, I'll kill you because that's my
Oh, gee.
match." So no pressure at all. But at one point, so he had this kendo stick he came out with, and I ended up getting him on the ring post, smashed him on the ring post, and I dove in the ring and went out, and went in the ring and went out, and so I kind of got him hog tied around the ring post, because he was all tied up to it. And I handed Gemma the kendo stick, and I was like, "Gemma, hit him." And she's like, "I've never hit somebody with a kendo stick. What are you doing?" And I said, "It's going to be fine. Hit him as hard as you can, as many times as you can." And I had the crowd going for her, and it was great, man. She was just like, "Okay," and she takes a count, oh, boom, and she cracks him in the gut, and he bends over, and I go, "No, hit him in the back," and she boom cracks him in the back. But the crowd loves it, man, because that's what's fun about it, It's she's willing to go out there and just do it. Too many people in wrestling, man. What are we there for? We're there for the people sitting on the other side of the guardrail. Make them happy, excite them, make it make that the best part of their day every time, and you're never going to go wrong. And she gets it. She wants to be there. She wants to be doing it. So yeah, man, every time she comes around, I try to talk to her, try to get some stuff going with her, because it's great. I know she's in New York, so she's doing a lot of stuff out there. I think she's working with was it Dynasty up in New York. She's doing a couple of other things, but she's always out there doing stuff, man. She's a great hustler, and it's not going to go wrong for her if she keeps working at it like she is. So it's good. She's definitely got like that right
I'm
mindset.
proud of Gemma. She always really helps me, and she always connected me with you. But she's
Mhm.
trying to help me with more female and male wrestlers, trying to get them to come message me or they'll follow me. And I'm just like, cool, thank you. I messaged her, thank you, Gemma. And then when I got
Yeah.
you, I said, Gemma did the magic again. And she went, like, she sent me the laughing
Yeah.
emoji. So,
Nah, she's
like,
cool.
I
Yeah,
thought I
man.
was a satellite dish. She's a real satellite dish. She
Well,
just,
she's out there just doing stuff, and that's a thing. It's like a lot of people in wrestling, they get so used to like, okay, I'm here and I'm in this spot, but it's like, man, wrestling is a really big ocean. Go out there and just take a dive in, see what happens. Um, it's great. And I feel like anytime, like when you reach out to me, anybody who wants to talk or do a podcast, man, like I feel like not enough people appreciate the amount of work that goes in on the back end of it. And so I'm always really happy to give whatever I can to it, because like, okay, we're gonna film this, we're gonna do this moment, we're gonna have these talks, these conversations, but like that's only gonna go so far. There's gonna be editing, post production. There was obviously pre production, and then there's gonna be posting it, sharing it. There's gonna be advertising it, and it's like until you've understood what that all stands for, like people got to give more credit to guys who are out there and willing to do a podcast, guys or girls. I say guys as a gender neutral, but this concept of like people who go out and do the work, man, because like if it's internationally seen and recognized and heard, how can you can't get that just anywhere. It doesn't start from just anywhere. You know what I mean? There had to be a podcast one. There had to be a podcast two. There had to be a podcast 15. And at some point, you know what I mean? Like when those numbers really start adding up and people look back, if they're not acknowledging that, anybody who's like, "Oh, I don't want to do a podcast," it's, It's like, dude, you know what I mean? How are you gonna ever? What are you doing? What you give to the business and what you give to everybody who's willing to support you is what you're gonna get back. I have found from this past, you know, 13 years of doing this, it really is this venture of when people are going to do stuff or they're going to go out there and they're going to put in the effort, something's going to happen, man. And you know, the people who never really get to that next level, and when I say next level, I don't mean like WWE or TNA or any of those kind of AEWs. I just mean like the people who they wrestle and they train and then they wrestle once a month at their home promotion, you know, and they're like, oh man, you know, wrestling was never it for me. And it's like, well, how many car rides did you do for free? How many times did you take the trip? How many messages did you send that were unresponded to? How many times did you shoot a promo about nothing? You know, it's like, put it out there, man. Just do something and something will come back for you. And every opportunity like this, man, I appreciate it. I'm always so thankful because, dude, I'm just a dude in face paint with a top hat and some chains. And you're going to, you know what I mean? But people like you are the ones that help it make it possible for people to give a crap. And that's awesome. So you got to give respect to those people.
I love doing this stuff because I honor my grandfather, which wrestled in the 50s and 60s with his name, Jose
That's cool.
Quinones the Panther.
Okay.
And everybody always says, oh, you're using your grandpa's name. Like, you're not original. I am original. I'm not wearing a mask. I wear red glasses. He wore a red mask. So I'm honoring his legacy. I kind of like the lucha thing, wearing a hat and glasses.
I love lucha, man.
And he would have been so proud to know his grandson is not in the business wrestling like he did, but he's helping young wrestlers like you, Gemma, Kiara from England, Shorde, Alfie, all these wrestlers. It's just like a blanket for me. It's a giant blanket.
And the thing about like wrestling, man, and the history of wrestling and lucha history especially, is that it's meant to not be exact. It's a derivation. You know, everything has to have the influence. My trainers originally were trained in Mexico, so like everything I have is of Mexican descent. So, you know, the character and where it comes from and the ideas behind it, it's a lot of inspiration from, you know, years and years and years and years and years of lucha professional wrestling, because that's what it is, man. It's like those guys have been putting it out there for so long. But you know, like the 50s and 60s of wrestling, it's people who ignore the history. You know, I talked about the history first, man. Like I'm wearing the chain. The guys who inspired me, the guys who I still work with, the history of wrestling, like that connection to the circle of wrestling and where it comes from. You know, guys like Mario Mancini, Paul Roma, they were there. They were there. I mean, Mario was there for Undertaker's first match. Paul was there for how many matches, how many WrestleManias, how many big shows. He's worked Bret Hart, he's worked Shawn Michaels, he's worked Ric Flair, he's been a horseman. I mean, like these kinds of guys, when you have access to that, dude, how are you going to ignore it? Why wouldn't you pay homage to your grandfather? Why wouldn't you? I mean, it doesn't make any sense not to. This is wrestling. We want to be told a story, but there's got to be a good story. So it's like, I don't know. Oh, how dare you? How dare you honor your grandfather? That's awesome. You know what I mean? People should like that. That's what we want. You know.
There's too many haters in the wrestling world. It's just like,
oh yeah, dude.
Everybody can't. When I first came up with the name, I was junior, and then my dad had to give me a pep talk. Sir, you're not the junior. He's the junior. I'm the third. And I was like, didn't make sense at first. I had to keep saying it in my computer, my little iHome thing I have, and I was like, that's the third. Got it. Like changed it. Never looked back.
Yeah, man. No, I mean wrestling is cool. I mean, if you look back to the 50s and 60s of wrestling, the 70s, 80s, 90s, you know, the history of wrestling itself, you learn a lot about modern wrestling. A lot of the things that happen nowadays, that are shocking, if you look back at history, you can see where it came from. There's so much of it that has an origin story in wrestling. And so when people want to tell these big, grandiose, momentous concepts, it's like, dude, go look at wrestling. And there's a ton of it out there for you. Find something cool. I love watching old wrestling. I didn't grow up watching pro wrestling. I wasn't allowed to. I, as a little kid, jumped off my refrigerator because I thought I was Jimmy Snuka, and that kind of cut all that off for me. But then I watched different Coliseum home videos, and I actually really grew up on '80s pro wrestling, even though I wasn't living in, I wasn't doing it during the '80s. But like now, I watch a ton of '50s, '60s, '70s wrestling because I don't know. There's something so genuine about the way they had to go about delivering it. And so like when you watch it and you really watch it, especially from like a student perspective, entertainment wise, you can watch any wrestling. But as a student perspective, there's so much to be learned from those kinds of guys. And I don't know, I do a ton of it. Road trips, if we're on a long road trip, I love throwing it on the car with some of the young guys I travel with. And I'm like, guys, let's just watch this match and just watch them work a headlock for like 25 minutes and see what you can do with it. So it's cool. I love history wrestling. So
Awesome. So, Bloodsaw, if my fans want to follow you on social media,
yeah,
how can they find you?
yeah, man. So I'm on Facebook, Buzz Bloodsaw. On Instagram at the Bloodsaw. It's really easy. Keep it kind of simple. I don't really do the Twitter X thing. It's been out there, but I don't use it, so don't worry about it. So I'm always on those pages. Come look for me, message me, buzzbloodsaw at yahoo.com if you want to kick me an email directly. If you want to set me up for something, it's totally cool. But yeah, man, anything, like I said, I train out of Connecticut. So anything at official PAPW, they post a lot of my stuff and reshare it. AIWF, if you watch any of their stuff, I'm on a ton of what they got going on. And if you're going to watch me, you're going to see some of the young talent coming up with me. So by all means, check them out too. Give a push for the guys around me. Great matches lately with Sylvan, Corey Duke, Jekyll, Alan Compass. I'm gonna forget people, and I'm sorry everybody I forgot, but like seriously, those are some great guys to look up to if you want to see some hot, fresh wrestling coming out. These guys are all over the place. Check them out, man. You're gonna see some cool stuff, I swear.
Awesome. Bloodsaw, I want to thank you so much for coming on the podcast. Once again, thank you, Gemma, for sending me Bloodsaw because
Yeah, Gemma. I'll see you soon.
Oh no.
I'm just kidding.
Run.
Run, Gemma.
Gemma putting her top hat over on her eyes, running.
Yeah.
Bumped into the wall.
Yeah, it's good.
It's like rubble. Oh,
yeah.
Need a candy bar.
Some good people. I'll see you soon, Gemma. Don't worry. It'll be fine.
Thank you so much, Bloodsaw. I'm Joe Panther III.
I'm Bloodsaw.
And we will catch you in the next one.